American Family Radio, Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. It's great to be back. So, by the way, the phone line's 866-300-9298, 866-300-9298. If you want to weigh in, we'd love to hear from you. We're going to open up the phones here in a few minutes, 866-300-9298, and we're going to get to the phones. Listen, before I do that, I do want to say Ted Cruz, once again, talking about what's going to happen. All the conversation is leaning towards this whole deficit ceiling debate that is going to happen. They're already talking about, how unpatriotic it would be to shut down the government. There are some Republicans that have jumped on board with Democrats. That's a surprise. That have jumped on board with Democrats saying, we're not going to. We're not in a position to shut down the government. That's irresponsible. That's not something we're going to do. We're not going to defund Obamacare. I think we should defund. The one thing that nobody's talking about is defunding the IRS. I think that ought to be defunded, too, until we can get to the bottom of it. Just defund it. They're going to have to furlough everybody until we get to the bottom of all this garbage that's been going on in the IRS. And if you want to get answers, let's defund it. I mean, I don't understand why that's such a big deal. You don't want to put people on furlough. Well, nobody wants to do that, but that's the consequence for the idiotic behavior of these people's bosses. So unfortunately, everybody has to suffer a little bit that is involved, and that's just the way it is. Nobody wants to do it, but furlough them, and you got to defund the IRS effective immediately. Or maybe we'll let them get one more pay period in. I don't know, but they need to defund it. It needs to go away. I'm not saying it can't come back. It shouldn't come back, but I'm not saying it can't come back and won't come back. Maybe it'll last a week. Maybe it'll last 2 weeks. Maybe it'll last 2 months. I don't know. But, that's not included in any of the defunding plans. It should be. Might be the only way we get any answers. I think it's relatively clear that there was a huge amount of mismanagement, irresponsibility going on, and nobody's being held accountable. I know they don't do that in government circles, but it would be nice. Ted Cruz talking about representatives, want to vote, but they really don't want to succeed on the vote of repealing Obamacare. First of all, forget the whole repeal thing. Come on. Just defund. Maybe you don't even have to defund the whole thing. Then defund the parts that are detrimental to America and to people. They don't want to do that. They're talking about they're going to put in another bill to repeal. Oh, my word. And they all want to vote. They all have to vote. I've got a campaign coming up I'm going to be telling you about, my own personal campaign, not a political campaign, by the way. I saw a press release on it yesterday, a little ahead of schedule, maybe, but it's going to be coming out today, and we're going to be talking about it tomorrow, I think, on the program. But, it's going to be very interesting, and I know that my listeners will get behind it because I'm sick of all this garbage with Obamacare and no concerns whatsoever of the unintended consequence. So Ted Cruz said this yesterday.
I've been astonished at how many Republicans in Washington want a fig leaf. They want a vote that they can say, look, see, I did the right thing, but they don't actually want to succeed. There are a lot of Republicans in Washington who are scared. They're scared of being beaten up politically because the way this will play out is the House of Representatives, I believe, should start by passing a continuing resolution that funds the entire federal government except for Obamacare and that explicitly prohibits funding Obamacare. The next step, we've seen this play before, is that Harry Reid and President Obama will scream at the top of their lungs, the evil, mean, nasty Republicans are trying to shut down the federal government. And that's when we need to respond and say no. We need to stand together and say no. We have voted to fund the federal government. We want to keep the federal government open. Why is President Obama threatening and trying to shut down the federal government in order to force Obamacare down the people's throats, particularly when it isn't working?
Now, let me ask you something, folks. Is that such a hard concept to understand? I mean, how hard is that to understand? Think about it. It's a very simple plan. I had this conversation a few years back when the Congress had just changed to a majority rule of Republicans. I had a conversation similar to this with Mike Pence, Congressman Pence, now Governor Pence. And I had this conversation with him about abortion, about funding Planned Parenthood. And my comment was, why can't we just put the veto that President Obama is okay with funding abortion? Why can't we just put that on his desk? What was all the conversation by Republicans and conservatives there? Well, we don't want, there's no sense. Boehner. And there were Tea Party, brand new, 4-month-old Tea Party representatives that voted with Boehner because he threatened them. Well, we can't lose this, and it's going to go to the president, and he's going to veto it. Oh, yeah, so let's compromise our values. There is a congressman, I won't even mention what state he's from, that wanted to be on the come on the program and talk about it. I said, I'm fine, I'll talk about it, but he better be prepared to talk about why the values that he claims to have that he ran on, he compromised for the sake of politics. He compromised the murder of babies for the sake of politics. Needless to say, he didn't come on the program. But at least I was kind enough to give him a heads up that that's where I was going to go. We have the same situation now. Ted Cruz is saying, look, we're not trying to shut down the government. If the Obama wants to shut down the government because we are not allowing him to shove down the throats of every American Obamacare, if he wants to shut down the entire government, then let it be on him. Is that a hard concept to grasp for conservatives? Apparently it is. Because as sure as I'm sitting here, they're not going to do it. Rand Paul, talking about the government shutdown, said this.
Well, the thing is the Republicans have already announced there's going to be a shutdown of government. Myself, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, we're not arguing to shut down the government. We're arguing to defund Obamacare. But the Republicans that are announcing surrender, they've already taken the next leap. They're saying, oh, you want to shut down government? No, we don't. We want to defund Obamacare. We want to defund a disastrous program that is going to bankrupt state governments, is going to bankrupt individuals, is going to cause people to lose their insurance, and is going to really hurt precisely the people you want to help. We're standing up for what we believe in, and we want to use the leverage of the people who voted for us to try to get reform in government. I don't see how anybody could criticize that.
Oh, they will criticize it. And the criticism is coming out of the Republicans. This is why I say nothing's going to get done until John Boehner is out of there. Oh, he'll get reelected. Don't worry. November 2014, he will be reelected along with everybody else. They'll all get reelected. You can count on it. This goes to part of my campaign here at Financial Issues that I'm starting. I hope everyone listening is going to get involved. By the way, it's not going to involve money. It's not going to be involved in asking for money. Nothing like that. It's what's going to be involved is accountability and nothing more. And I can assure you, as unfortunate as it is, that I am laying an awful lot on the line, and I'll talk about that later. But it is just going to have to be what it is. But I don't understand the concept. Mike Lee from Utah, Senator, said this.
We always knew Obamacare was going to be unaffordable. We now also know that it's going to be unfair. What I'm saying is that if the president's not ready to implement the law, if the law's not ready for prime time, Congress shouldn't fund it.
Again, is that hard to understand? I mean, the president himself admitted, let me ask you something. If Obamacare is so good for the economy, if Obamacare is so good for you and I, Why are we postponing one of the most important pieces of Obamacare for an entire year till after the election? This isn't a cynical statement. Listen, if it were good for America, if it were good for people, wouldn't you try to implement it even sooner to ensure the election is going to go well for the architects, the supporters of Obamacare in November of 2014? Wouldn't you try to push it through sooner as opposed to postponing in a year? I mean, do you have to be a rocket scientist to figure out the logic behind that? Come on. And Mike Lee is saying that very thing. It's not only unaffordable, as we're all seeing, every single day this week, well, every single day, but I'm counting the New York Times on Sunday and the Saturday edition of the Wall Street Journal, Monday and today, there have been articles from another state or another article talking about the increases. All of them have been 30 to 40% increases in health care costs for you and I, our premiums, to the employers that are going to have to pass it along to us. It's unaffordable. And now, as Senator Mike Lee said, it's unfair. And we're figuring all that out. Everybody's read it. Everybody's dug into it. But we have a group of conservatives that have no backbone or spine that are going to go along with this. That's not the worst part, in my opinion. It is. Well, it is. But to make that matter even worse, they're all going to get reelected. They're all going to get reelected. 70% of these congressmen that run, Democrat or Republican, run unopposed. They're not even going to have opposition in the primaries, let alone not get reelected. Why would you listen to the very people that you work for if they don't have the ability or desire, is what it is, the will, to fire you? Why? If you're doing whatever you want to do, irregardless of the will of the people that you supposedly represent and work for, why? They can't do anything. They're not going to do anything about it. They're not going to fire you. They're not going to raise up somebody to run against you. They're not going to do any of that. Does anybody out there really think that the Republicans care a lick about America? Come on. Really? They don't even have they can't even stay on task for longer than 2 weeks. The arrogance of John Boehner last week talking about, well, it's going to be the same old thing. We're going to want, cuts in spending equal to the cost that we are going to raise the deficit. Are you kidding me, John? Here's how it went last time. Let me just lay it out for you because some of you will remember. I know a lot of you will remember because I still hear about it in emails. There was a morning that I came on the air. They had been saying this, dollar for dollar cuts. You all remember that, right? Dollar for dollar cuts. Then all of a sudden, 2 weeks before the bill went to vote, 2 weeks, I heard a quick interview with Eric Cantor. And all of a sudden, I heard something very interesting. I heard, we're not going to pass this bill unless we see structured cuts in spending. It went from dollar to structured cuts. Nobody picked it up. Boehner, everybody, structured cuts. Nobody picked it up. And I said that morning, I said, we've just been set up, folks, just so you know. You've all been set up. Everybody's been set up. You know what a structured cut is? Structured cut is like $1 billion over the next 20 years. That's a structured cut. Oh, you keep spending. Don't worry about it. Keep your budgets. Keep spending the way you're spending. Irrelevant. Doesn't matter. That's fine. We're going to structurally cut that out. Now, we will be adding $5-6 trillion onto the debt between now and that structured cut gets fully implemented. Doesn't matter. But, we'll put it in. It went from dollar for dollar to structured cuts. That's what happened. Now we're back to dollar for dollar. Okay, good luck with that. I mean, really? Come on. It's not going to be any dollar for dollar. You got to be kidding me. 866-300-9298. Don't, please, folks, I'm about 4,000 emails behind, literally. I'm not kidding. The vacation killed me. So don't email me and tell me how harsh I'm being on Republicans. You call yourself a conservative and you're not helping the cause. No, I'm not. I am a conservative. I'm more conservative than you can imagine. I am very, very conservative. That's not the issue. But what cause are you talking about? You're talking about the cause of Christ? You're talking about calling everybody to get right with God and do the right thing? You're talking about the cause of turning America around? You're talking about the cause of restoring the moral fiber? Is that the cause you're talking about? Are you talking about keeping America from going over the cliff so our children and grandchildren have an America that we recognize? Are you talking about the cause of shutting down socialized medicine? You're talking about that cause? What cause are you talking about? Don't email me with that. I don't care what party anybody belongs to. The cause is about those things I just talked about. And if you're a Republican kicking against that goad, you need to be called out on it. American Family Radio, Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia, 866-300-9298. You know, I can remember a time